afternoon, everyone. Greetings to our webinar, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion, What's in it for me? Welcome, everybody. We are glad to see you. I hope that you can hear me okay and you see our presentation. If so, drop me a plus in our chat so I can see that everything is fine. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So let's start. First of all, let me introduce Stratoplan Management School. We were founded in 2010 by Alex Orlov and Slava Pankratov, who have a background in IT. Since then, we have had over 23,000 graduates, thousands of which were promoted to management positions. We teach smart people to work well together, and to do so, we use hundreds of business cases. All our coaches have psychology or coaching background. And for example, I'm Anton Savochka. I'm a management trainer with Stratoplan. I have over 10 years experience in management, and I'm a certified business coach. As the title suggests, today we will be talking about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in team collaboration with our experts, Marina and Svetlana. So let me pass you to Svetlana, who will start this session. Svetlana, welcome.
Thank you, Anton. And hello, colleagues. Welcome to the session. Glad to see you here. Just a second, we'll share the presentation, or maybe let me ask our technical support to share. Colleagues, just let me know how shall I proceed.
Svetlana, you can share your presentation.
Okay, then just a second, we'll share my screen and would be glad to continue. And thank you for being attracted by this topic, as today this topic seems to be one of the most important and interesting when the world shrinks, when the world became global, when we work in international environment. And it may well happen that you start your working day with your meeting from China, meeting your colleagues from China, then you continue with elaborating on solution with your colleagues from Eastern Europe, and at the end of the day, in the evening, you discuss the status of your project with your American colleagues. So navigating across cultures, feeling confident, feeling empowered across cultures becomes very important skill in many organizations. So let us dive a little bit deeper into the topic. And first of all, let me justify my presence here. I am Svetlana, Sveta, that's my short name. Initially, I'm from Belarus, from Minsk. And my first cross-cultural collision, let me call it so, happened when I traveled as a student, as an exchange student from Soviet Union to West Germany. And after 2 years of study, I have returned from united already Germany to the independent Republic of Belarus. And it was a cultural shock. I have experienced cultural shock when coming there, and then cultural shock after return. Moreover, I have selected such a hobby, and that's, I'm sure, my lifelong hobby. I have selected a hobby of contract bridge, of intellectual card game, that actually helped me to understand different cultures, different nationalities. Once again, coming to international environment, to sports competition. And, you know, business is quite often compared to sports. Both are team games. Both are competitions. So we compete in sports, of course, for the victory, in business for time to market, quality against competitors, and so on. So team result, team synergy is important for both, for my sport and for the business. And Since 2014, I've been acting as a trainer of multicultural sports team. Of course, my main job, being a soft skill trainer in global IT company, shapes my understanding of cross-cultural collisions, of cross-cultural synergy, of course, and I would be glad to present some useful ideas that may be helpful for your business, for your teams, if you'd like to explore more and to get the best from your team potential. So currently, over 3 years already, I'm in Vilnius. That's one more experience of travel and relocation. Still, let's dive a little bit deeper into the topic. And as a warm-up, our agenda for today, what would you expect from me? So as warm-up, I would like to invite you to tiny exercises, checking your awareness about cross-cultural collision, about the meaning and value of culture. Then I would be glad to introduce maybe the most mature and the most famous cross-cultural studies. It's about Geert Hofstede, cultural dimensions, and we will scratch the surface about how cultural dimensions influence on organizational culture and on organization success. So there are our key points. Your questions or comments in chat may be appreciated. Yeah, if you have something, still let us focus on questions at the very end of my speech. So maybe some topics, some items will be covered in my speech. And let me start with something like that. Please take a look at this picture. You can see here a quite normal for the urban survival. You can see here quite a normal item. And you can see here typical item, typical object you can find on the crossroad. May you please name the color of the bottom section that you see here and now. Please write down your answer to the chat. That's an easy game, yeah? No controversial questions. That's a very easy game. Green, emerald, yeah, green, rather green. For us, for urban survivals, it's really important to see the difference or to understand the difference between green, I can go, and red, please stop if you'd like to survive. What about this color? May you please identify what is the right green here? I do believe that it would be a challenge. Yeah, we in the cities in the Western civilization. Yeah, we do not need to see the gradients to see the shadows of green for our needs. Yeah, exactly. However, we do not have enough words because it's not important for us. Once again, for an urban pedestrian or driver, the main difference is to understand red, green, okay, yellow. Yeah, and in the Swahili language, they have 37 words for specific shadows of green, because they need to understand the poison frog or the fresh grass, the fruits or vegetables that they can consume or not. So here is the evolutionary meaning of culture, because actually words, vocabulary, is a part of culture also. Yeah. So for some specific times, the culture was the set of habits, set of rules, helping specific group of people to survive in their environment. By the way, we still, in our Western civilization, we still inherit some specific ideas from those times. However, quite possible we do forget their meaning. What about this one? What about the initial meaning of the handshake? Today, handshake is quite a normal social act, yeah, of trust, of mutual respect, yeah. Maybe you can recall the initial meaning or why this habit is still with us. There are a lot of other habits to greet each other, yeah. There are a lot of thank you, Anton, yeah. Thank you, Maxim. Exactly. Long time ago, when two people met at the narrow path, they needed to demonstrate their intentions. And then right hand open, demonstrating no weapon, was a sign that, okay, I am okay, you are okay. Here is our guy, so to say. You don't need to fight or to flight. It looks like we both can survive at this very moment. So here initially it was a gesture for demonstrating that I am with you, I am in your group, or at least I am not the enemy. Today, we have this as a deal, as a respect, as a trust, as a sign of, once again, we are from the same tribe, yeah. However, we do not recognize this gesture as I have no weapon in my hand. And maybe one more very nice habit, especially if we encounter that Christmas is almost here. What about this nice tradition of chin chin? What about this nice tradition to create a nice crystal sound from two wine glasses? What do you think? Or maybe you can remember the. Thank you, Marina. Yeah. And initially, even much more earlier than in the era of knights, much more early in the Roman Empire, when host and guest attended the dinner, then as a gesture, as a sign of good intention, yeah, they shared the drinks and they shared their destiny. So if the host or the guest, if somebody of them had not good intentions, then they also share the destiny, yeah, sharing the drink. Today, it's a nice social habit. Still, somehow, somewhere, it was important for survival. And the culture, in his historical, in his evolutionary meaning, is the set of rules, the set of habits. Yeah, a set of rules and habits that distinguish one group of people from others. It was really important for survival for our medieval ancestors that we understand at the first sight that he is our friend or he is our foe. Who is this person? Shall I be prepared for collaborating or for competing? And a lot of our cultural habits or references or rules, a lot of them we have inherited from those historical or prehistorical ages, and now we may forget the initial meaning. However, we still have some specific rules, habits, reference, or collective programming of the mind to understand that here is our individual, so to say, and here is the person not from our tribe. The same, by the way, is about organizational culture. Maybe you can recall a situation when you, as newcomer, has joined the company, or maybe when a newcomer has joined your company, your group. Maybe you can recall some specific cases, even maybe incidents, yeah, next to the cooler or in the kitchen that actually was taken as a probe, as a probing question. Is it our guy or maybe not our guy? And organizational culture, like medieval culture, organizational culture also has this meaning of survival, helping us to survive, not as individuals or as a nations, but as a business. And depending on the culture in the organization, we believe in different things. We believe in, or we rely on different system of values. We make our decisions based on specific assumption that we can call collective programming. What is good, what is bad for us, how does our team player behave, and what kind of behavior is will be never observed from our team player. And what do you think? What was the time when the cultural studies appeared on the spot, when the cultural studies appeared to be in focus of scientists, of researchers? What do you think, more or less? What is the year, maybe not the year, maybe specific, not necessarily the year, maybe more or less, like 50s, 60s, which century, of course. What about your gut feeling when it was on the spot, when it became a focus of studies for different science, for sociology, for psychology, for specific cultural studies, when Facebook became popular? 20th century, likely after World War II. Exactly. Thank you, Anshul. Once again, the world shrinked. After World War II, the world shrinked. European soldiers invaded Africa. American soldiers helped Europeans to win the war, and so on and so forth. So about 50s, about after the World War II, we humankind, we realized that wow, not in every country, not in every nation, they do business like we do, or they do communicate like we do. The most comprehensive study, the study of Geert Hofstede, that I would like to introduce, and you can see his flagman book about cultures and organizations. So the most comprehensive study and the most mature study, I would say, is as old or as young as end of 60s. They started, and by the way, those studies were encouraged and sponsored by the IBM company. It happened that IBM, expanding their business to various countries, they faced it with a challenge that American business model didn't prove as successful as in America in a lot of countries. Okay, it may be self-explanatory that American business model would not be successful in, let's say, Arabian countries. However, why actually American management model was not successful in Germany or in Japan? It was a question. And IBM launched several researches. One of them was about culture. And the research of Geert Hofstede and his team was focused on about 120,000 of employees and their family members in 70 countries. The first result was published in 2010. And still, these studies are in progress. We have already fifth edition of those studies in 2022. As every scientific theory, this one theory was also supported and criticized. So we have the final edition of 2022. Still, let me introduce the key points of these studies and let us map them to your maybe organization, to your practice. Geert Hofstede and his team, they have introduced firstly 4, then 2 additional cultural dimensions were added. They have introduced 6 cultural dimensions. In my 2-day speech, I would like to present only 3. However, those 3, they are the most important for understanding organizational culture and for navigating across the culture in organization. And there are the most important cultural dimension and their description. First of all, individualistic or collectivistic culture. Gerd Hofstede called individualistic cultures when people, the cultures, the countries, where people present themselves as I, when the people understand themselves as a individual, as a unique person in terms of I. And collectivistic culture when the people understand themselves and present themselves as a part of the group in we terms. Maybe you can more or less understand your country, your culture, the culture you are in. Is it rather individualistic or collectivistic? Or let me provide you with few examples. What do you think, for instance, based on gut feeling, even if you never have been to the country? What do you think? Australia, individualistic or collectivistic? Australia, what do you think? Just a gut feeling. Please do not Google. Google knows everything, yeah? However, please. Individualistic. Australia actually is strongly individualistic, about 75 points out of 100. And here the explanation is in the link between historical development of the country and is its presence. If we recall the historical background, what were the first inhabitants for not aborigines, but what were the first travelers to Australia, yeah, and how they survived in the country, then we can definitely justify why Australia scores high in the individualism. There were people, yeah, first of all, there were former prisoners, yeah, and they struggled for their survival. So I for myself, something like that. 50 years passed. However, some rules for survival still keep the country at the high individualistic score. Okay, on the contrary, what about China? What do you think? China as a country, as a nation, individualistic or collectivistic? I or we? In this case, yeah, in this case, collectivistic, and again, here is the historical explanation. Yeah, of course, that's too obvious. Yeah, still, it may be not too obvious for the organization. Yeah, and let me proceed with two more cultural dimensions and then map them to organization. Risk or uncertainty avoidance. Actually, we could hardly predict the future. The future can never be known. That's the fact. Next starts the attitude. Some societies try to control the future. Some societies say that the future just happens. And avoiding or accepting uncertainty is one more dimension. And the third one I'd like to present is the power distance. Power distance, the attitude of the less power member of organization to the more powerful members, to the inequality in managerial or managerial power or authority. Let me illustrate each of these examples by a case. What does it mean actually for organizational behavior? Let us imagine that at the interview, a customer from very individualistic country, By the way, United States score the highest as the highest country in the individualism. So the customer asks the representative of very collectivistic country. Here you can see the flag of Guatemala, the most collectivistic country in the world. And the individualistic customer asks our collectivistic engineer, what was your project about? And the person that is accustomed to present himself in we term may respond something like that. Meanwhile, for representative of individualistic culture, it may look strange because why actually he's talking about team, customer, whatever, but not about his job. It's about our program of mind. It's about our collectivistic framework of reference. If a person understands himself in we terms, then this answer is very natural for him. However, for the customer, it's something embarrassing because individualistic customer would like to see the personal contribution. What else can happen in organization? Power distance. How do we make decision? Is the person with higher status, with a higher hierarchy position, the most important one, the most decisive one? A person with low power distance country, with democratic country, for instance, may approach a colleague saying something like that. Okay, I think we could reduce team numbers by 10%. If the counterpart is from high power distance country, then this person anticipates the input not as a start of discussion, however, as the end of discussion and start for acting or act on instruction. And maybe the third example is about uncertainty avoidance or risk tolerating. Just imagine that representative of a country with risk tolerance, with low uncertainty avoidance, has delivered a presentation and now ask colleagues what about their questions or opinions. And this person expects their colleagues to share opinion, to ask questions, because actually decision-making in uncertainty avoidance format, in low uncertainty avoidance, is made together by discussion. Everything is possible. Every idea matters. So let's discuss. However, surprisingly, this person may get an awkward silence as an answer, or she may interpret this silence as a lack of interest, lack of ideas, or maybe specific challenge. So what's wrong? Why actually the people that right now have attended presentation, why actually they keep silence? It may be because of their attitude to the unknown. If I'm not sure how my actions or words or questions will be anticipated, will be treated, then I would better to keep silence. In high uncertainty avoidance culture, making nothing means making no mistakes. That's why actually people from high uncertainty avoidance culture may think like that. My English not good enough, or I don't want to be the first one to risk, or okay, I have question, but I might look stupid, or if I ask question, everybody will see that I don't know anything. And these typical office stories, they may be here and there in providing feedback, in evaluating projects, in attitude to the help, to the teamwork, and so on and so forth. So what can we do with that? Let us check, for instance, in your company, how would you anticipate the situation? Imagine you are on the regular team meeting and team lead presents an idea, and you can see a team member that challenges this idea. What would you think? What is your first idea? I do not expect your questions, your answers in the chat. However, you see the action, and we people, we need to explain the reasons of those actions. And depending on your culture, depending on your organizational rules and tiny signals, you may explain Anna's behavior as a voice of expert, as a voice of not loyal person, or as a person who breaks the rules. How to understand, how to behave, how to understand where those rules are created or reinforced. Here is a topic for quite comprehensive and rewarding, interesting and rewarding organizational studies. What are the rules that your organization believe in, aiming to survive, aiming to win in the business? And here might be this topic might be the topic of a specific training. Let me skip the second example. You will see it and in the presentation, and you may elaborate on that. Yeah, one and the same behavior, 4 different attitudes. And here is just about cultural differences or cross-cultural collisions. So in training process, we can create a cultural map, not only on specific country, but also on specific organization. And we can understand what is the type of culture in your organization. How do you, as an employee, as a colleague, or as a manager, you have 3 roles already, yeah? How do you or how can you influence on those cultural or cross-cultural collision, and how can you lead your cross-cultural teams from collisions to the cooperation or synergy? Actually, that's it from me for today. Let me check the chat for possible questions or comments.
Okay. And I guess it's time for Marina to add her part in this session. So Marina, please take demonstration and please share your insights on this topic.
Thank you, Svetlana, very much, and thank you, Anton. And it is quite challenging for us, as we've discussed before the event with Anton, to take 20 minutes or 25 minutes for the trainer, because it usually takes us just time to warm up and take up to speed. But I will try to focus on key ideas from this very large and really rich and rewarding topic. So a few words of introduction of who I am and why I'm here. You know, traditionally, I'm showing you some slides traditionally as well, in case you haven't seen slides for a while. So I am an international business trainer, coach, and career consultant. I work intensely with most various cultures, and I must say I have an experience that I've started with diversity, equity, and inclusion being in a corporate employee. I've worked in PepsiCo, and this topic was only emerging at that time. And now I work as a trainer, and my 2 key expert areas are managing self and managing others. Managing self, by that I mean time management, stress management, emotional intelligence, getting control over your calendar, raising awareness, etc. And managing others is, of course, leadership, management programs, impact, and collaboration. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think, is on the verge of these 2 areas, because this is all about us, our awareness, managing self, and all about others, how we manage relationships, how we make our workplace a safer place or a happier place. So I want to share some glimpse, I would say, a very quick glimpse on one of the areas and one of the ideas of this topic. We're going to look at visible and invisible differences, some things which are not obvious but make a difference. Also, how, based on these differences, unconscious bias manifests itself in selecting people, in teamwork, in developing and collaborating, and what can be some potential business risks if we exclude some difficult or different people from our team. Now, we all have some colleagues which we may think difficult, or we had in the past. Yeah, when you look at the person and say, well, how can you be such a person? You know, he's difficult or she's difficult. Let's fix him, or let's fire him. Yeah. So for some people, we can be difficult, and this can create a certain barriers in team collaboration, and, as I say, can have some pragmatic business risks for us. So basically, this is about how small things create big differences today. And I would like to start with a very quick warm-up, and I would need some of your ideas in the chat. Now, if we look at the invisible and visible differences, what differences do you think can be less obvious? Could you give me one or two examples in the chart of the invisible differences? Like, okay, visible is like wearing glasses or makeup or clothes, yes. What do you think some of the differences that are not so obvious that we may call invisible differences? Let me just open the chart to see. One or two words. Thoughts are invisible. Yeah, thank God. Sometimes, right? Moral values. Right. Excellent point. Perfectionism. Yeah, that style of work. Mood swings. Political views. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. What is polite and impolite? Exactly. Some of the beliefs that we have with regard to what is polite communication and what is not. You're absolutely right here. Thank you. Yeah. So when I do this workshop online or offline, we have this cards that we play, and it's not always easy to place them. Like some of them are pretty easy, like glasses and makeup or clothes. Or phobia is invisible, yeah, at some point. But what about age? Yeah, today is not so easy to place it somewhere. Or what about disability? It can be obvious or not. So as usually as business trainers, disability is a tricky one. I agree, yes. And you know, we business trainers like to use iceberg in our trainings. Andrea, I see you've raised your hand. Yes, could you unmute yourself, please, if you have a question? I think I saw somebody raise their hand.
I guess we can continue now.
Okay, it was my wishful thinking, yes? The strive of the trainer for interactivity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as you know, we like to use icebergs, and this is just an example from one of the trainings on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's a waterline, and you can see that the biggest part of the iceberg is below the water. So most of the differences we do not see. And I have actually a question about what is in this example, yeah, like gender, not always obvious, or age now, as I say, physical ability. So a lot of this is underwater. Some of these things need careful reflection, and I'm not asking you to put the answers in the chart, but this is just, again, for your self-reflection. What about your diversity iceberg? Do you have any factors that you could think of now that worked well for you when you wanted to influence people, that enabled you to succeed in life? Some of the differences that were benefits of yours. Like Svetlana made a very good example, a conversation near coffee machine, remember? When we are in the group with some people, and for instance, we find out that we are football fans, and we are football fans of one and the same team. Oh, that in some areas that works pretty well for team collaboration, you know. And you know, you're a biker and I'm a biker. Oh, well, that's great. And on the other hand, maybe you have experience of some factors or one factor that was a source of a potential barrier between you and your coworker or other people. And we don't say that some of our factors or peculiarities are good or bad. They're just there and they're different. Now, how well can we handle this difference? That the skill and the mastery that most managers need today. Now we look, and it's no news yet, that we look at the world and people through some filters. We interpret what we see, and people make decisions about you, not based on the reality, but based on their perception of reality. Like we judge ourselves by our intentions. Yes, I wanted to do good, or I didn't mean to. I wanted to make a different impression. So we judge ourselves by our intentions, but people judge us by our behaviors or what they perceive. And this can get tricky sometimes. So in diversity, equity, and inclusion today, as I said, one idea that I would like to highlight is actually an inclusion, what it's about, and what is exclusion, for that matter. I like the quote that people will forget what you did, and they will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. The emotion from a conversation or a particular situation is usually imprinted, and if it's a strong emotion, you remember it for a long time. Well, you might not quote the person, directly, you might not remember the direct wordings, but you will remember that you felt embarrassed, for instance, or uncomfortable, or on the contrary, you felt fine, you felt safe, you felt inspired communicating with this person. So inclusion is how we make our colleagues, our co-workers feel. And how do we feel when we come to work? Do we want to come to work to this team? So what makes an inclusive workplace? First of all, awareness. Do we understand the behaviors that can help include people? And are we committed to act accordingly, so to say? Are we committed to behave in ways which will actively value others, include others, and foster some collaboration in the team? Now, one key area of focus would be how we interact with each other. Small and often unconscious, and I would say unintended things that can make huge difference. On default level, we like people who are like ourselves, yes, similar to us. And why is that? And also I would use the point or reiterate the point that Svetlana made, that it's a survival threat when we see something very different, like drastically different from us, because we can't quite make what the behavior means. What are the intentions of this person? Like for instance, why I use the word biker today. I have a neighbor and he's a biker. And when he just moved in, this big guys with tattoos all over them, beard, and, wearing leather clothes, he looked quite, I would say, I would use the word dangerous to me. So if I'm standing and waiting for an elevator and he comes up, would I enter an elevator with the person looking that dangerous to me? And I'm using my filters now. Probably not. What if he's wearing a knitted hat with a pom-pom? Oh, yes, I would. That looks safe. Okay, that looks safe to me. Or what if he's additionally carrying a small fluffy dog? Oh, I would enter an elevator. I would ask him, life advice. I would baptize my children with him. So some things in my perception would look safer than others. And now, of course, after I got to know my neighbor, I know that bikers or his teammates are a friendly bunch, and I'm not afraid of him. But again, when people are too different from us, really different, and we can't quite make out what was their background and why are they behaving this way, our brain sets a signal, it's not safe, just be careful, keep a distance. So by that, we're transmitting some messages to each other every day by what we say or what we write in our charts, how we say it, how we look at people, like body language, facial expression, tone of voice, eye contact, or interrupting people or letting them speak. etc., etc. So these are very small messages, but these micro behaviors, we may say, can have positive impact on the receiver, and we can call it subtle benefits, which may result in feeling appreciated, feeling respected, feeling included. Or these micro behaviors may have negative impact on others, and we can call them subtle biases. When, for example, you're talking to the person and you think that you can very quickly check the message on your phone. Like you're talking and you're taking your phone and you do this like, yeah, okay, yeah. So the person reads this message as, I am not interesting. Yeah, you have something more interesting going on here rather than in our conversation. And oftentimes people refer to this kind of small behavior as disrespect. You know, I didn't feel respected. I didn't feel my teammate was interested in the conversation because he kept checking messages on his phone. And my intention was not to offend him. Remember, so we judge us by our intentions. We just think that we can do it multitasking way. Yes, we are multitaskers. So I could talk to you and I could check messages on my phone. And this, I didn't mean to offend anybody. If we have lots of these messages or subtle biases piled up in some relationships, what it can mean pragmatically to business and to the team performance. If we have lots of messages coming my way, so the individual will feel less valued and more excluded, which undermines self-confidence and then leads to restricting proactivity, initiative, and creativity, which will lead to increase in engagement and hits the results. It reduces productivity and performance, which leads to individuals feeling less valued because he has worse results. So this drip feed actually can start or can be started by unconscious behaviors, not intended behaviors. And I'm sure maybe you've heard of the children tale about the ugly duckling who turned into the swan later. I was trying hard to find the illustration to match it. When one little duck was different from the others. So, and he got lots of negative messages in his childhood, if we can say so. If there are lots of these things, micro messages, or we can call them microaggressions, over time, they can create real barriers between people. And you would not be able to tell exactly what happened, but you just remember that, you don't want to communicate with this person or with this group. It can lead to shutting people out, and there is such a phenomena or a concept, disruptive, I would say, concept to the teams called insiders, people like us, people similar to us, and outsiders. Now, what are they? The insiders are people who have formal or sometimes informal power. You remember in your school days, maybe there's some informal leaders in the class and some of the people in their group. So they set expectations, they set rules, and they benefit from these expectations and they benefit from these rules. Now, the outsiders have little power or no power to set any rules, but they are expected to follow them. And usually they are at a disadvantage because of these rules. I have a story, a case to illustrate this. Now, I will not show a video because it's quite long, but you could Google it and find it. The case is called Class Divided. Actually, this is a case where the teacher divided pupils in the class to illustrate the phenomena called discrimination, how insiders and outsiders concept work in a team. The experiment took place, I think it was late 60s. And well, to my mind, it's a rather bold experiment, very courageous from the part of the teacher. And if you have children, watch carefully, because when I was watching it for the first time, I had misty eyes. I got really emotional, because it were the kids. So it was the Brotherhood Week. And she asked, are there any people in US that we don't treat as brothers? And children raising their hands said, well, yes, Black people, Indian people, etc. And she said, do you know how it feels to be that kind of outsider? And would you like to play to find out? And of course, children, kids, they say, yeah, let's play. Let's see how it is. It's fun. So she suggested that they divide the class today by the color of their eyes, where blue-eyed people would be on top today, and brown-eyed people would be at disadvantage. So blue-eyed children got 5 extra minutes for the break. They could have some additional helping of the lunch and etc. Well, brown-eyed children had 5 minutes less of the break between the lessons. They could not use playground equipment. They couldn't take second helping, and they had to use paper cups and not drink from the fountains. They used to have, or maybe they still have, the fountains where you drink from it. And at that time, Black people were not allowed to drink from the fountains, and they had to carry some paper cups with them, which is, of course, it feels humiliating. So the children started playing as they do, and in the course of one afternoon, some trouble started. You see at the picture the 2 girls. One girl is crying, and they have this fabric on their arms. Actually, these are collars that the teacher made beforehand, and she asked them to wear these collars at school so they could see from a distance that you have brown eyes. And when you're playing on the playground during the breaks, the recession time, you have to wear these collars on your sleeves so we could see that you're brown-eyed. And they had first fights at this break, at the recession. And when the teacher asked, why did you beat this boy up? He said, he insulted me. And said, what did he say? He said, brown-eyed. So in the course of one afternoon, less than a day, the teacher said that children turned into from the friendly team, they turned into angry, aggressive, discriminating bunch. There's one interesting bit here. In this film, you would see people, these children who are already adults, and it was like mid-70s, and they're watching this experiment that was filmed. And they recall their emotional experience from the experiment. And this girl that we see crying on the picture, she said, when we went home that day, we talked about hating somebody. And the teacher said, well, you hated me? He said, yes, we hated you, and we hated blue-eyed people. And other guys shared, they say, we felt humiliated, demoralized. And if we talk about performance, brown-eyed children performance went drastically down that day. And when they got some tasks like phonetic drills or some grammar exercises, there were some phrases like, we knew we couldn't do it. And we knew like everything bad is happening to us. Now, the next day, the teacher said, I lied to you yesterday. Brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. And by ways of very simple manipulations, see, well, Susan Gender is wearing glasses today and she's brown-eyed, and look at James, he forgot his glasses. So obviously, well, children and the teacher, they believed her again. And it repeated itself again, but much, much faster. So children started this agony and aggression again. When she told them that it was just an experiment and they're all brilliant and great, their grades went up the next day. My question to you would be, do you think this kind of situation is possible with adult people, not with children, but can this kind of separation, so to say, happen with adult people? If you think so, yes, put a plus in the chat. If you think that no, adult people will not be led, or professional environment would not lead to this, put minus. Okay, I see. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for your activity. So if it can happen, and it usually, well, not usually, it occasionally does, what can we do about it? Yes, if we think of our experience, again, don't put this information in the chat. This is just for self-reflection. Have you ever felt like an outsider? Or maybe you observed happening it to someone else at school, at college, or at workplace. Now, if you remember the situation, do you remember what exactly happened and how did it make you feel? What is very important, could something be said or done to change the situation? Like, did you say anything or did somebody say anything? For example, you see somebody being constantly interrupted at the meeting. And, you know, some people are not so self-confident as others. And if they get interrupted, they would not start talking again. So if you see it, you see a person being excluded, what actually we can do? Yes, we can say, I'm sorry, I think Svetlana hasn't finished yet. Why don't we let her finish? Yes, so we can raise our voice, we can speak up. Of course, in the experiment, the leader, as the teacher, sets the tone. And if you are a people leader, a people manager, there's a lot of which concerns team dynamics, which depends on you. But also as a team member, you have the power to change things. Especially if we think about the risks. And question number 2, if we create as leaders or as teammates, insiders and outsiders at work, what effect might have on the organization, on psychological safety, on performance and results, retaining talents? Yeah, that's a good question. So I want to leave you with a couple of things, like practical stuff. You know, as business trainers, we like to do some action planning, even when we have only 25 minutes to talk. So these are the questions that we may ask to see if we can improve some of the things in our team. How I impact people. Do I actively listen to everybody? Or when do I shut people out? Do I exclude people or include? Do I have maybe some people that I prefer to talk more, like my favorite colleagues, for instance? Who do I always encourage, reward, praise? And whose contribution may I overlook? Are there any people in your team, some individuals that you do not really know? Well, you know there's some Brian or David or Liza, but you don't actually know the second part of the iceberg. Yes, the below the waterline part. And again, think about perceptions. Yeah, think about impact. Think about the behavior, not the intention, because I know you mean well, you want well, but some of our unconscious actions can be an add-on to this negative microaggressions or bias. So I'd like to leave you with these self-reflection questions. If you have any questions to us, to me, I would be happy to take them. Thank you for your attention.
Marina, thank you very much for your presentation. And we would like to hear your questions and your feedback. So feel free to drop them in the chat. And let me show you our contact form as well. So if you have any questions or any feedback for us, just drop it into our chat, and we're about to finish this session. Thank you very much for your attention. We are still waiting for some feedbacks, expressions, some impressions about this hour. And I would like to say thank you very much for Marina and Svetlana. I had some interesting insights about my behavior as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, we have a big comment here. Imagine you build the relationship with your team. You've got transparency and awareness and everybody's happy. One day, top management tells you that you as a manager have to fire half of your team, all that stuff. And they need a month for paperwork. So during that month, you can not communicate it to anyone. Oh, wow. During that month, you have meetings with the team to plan the future. After you fire half of your team, the other half who stayed will not trust you anymore. They know you lied to them last month, so you can do the same. Any safe way to go through the situation. There's really quickly a usual dilemma of managers. Some of the information you have is confidential, and you just can't cascade it to the team at a certain point, not to provoke panic. Also, when you decide which part of the team has to go, try to make it as fact-based and performance-based as possible. So try to be fair, not try to be liked. That's my usual advice to managers. You will not be liked by everybody, but trust, and it's a very important point. I would totally agree with you. Yes, trust is an asset that you have. So try to be fair, try to be fact-based, and explain as much as you can that some of the information will always be confidential between management and the stakeholders, and not every card you show to your team. So, but my heart goes to you. It's a difficult situation that you're having. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. I would like to add that it is very important to explain to your team that it's a business decision. There is nothing personal in it, and you did what you could for the team. And I guess that's the only way to keep at least like a basic level of trust, not the high level of trust, but at least a basic level of trust. And I guess we have another question. Any recommendations on how to manage a team which has formed many in-groups within and intergroups aggressions, leading to an efficient working? So Marina, maybe Svetlana also can add something about it.
Well, I could, if I may, yes.
Yeah.
I would challenge it with the conversation, because this can lead to some unexpected results and not very good results. So what I would build is, if you see something, you already have some observations. So I would state my observations. Here's what I see, guys. Here's how I interpret it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but here's my interpretation of what's going on. It should stop. Yeah, I have zero tolerance for this, so it should stop. And here's what I'm asking you to do. Like, do more of this. Please do less of this. And please do this differently. And I would ask them for commitment. Like, do we agree? Can I count on you? Do we have the understanding? So I think I would approach it in this way, because if we just keep it under the carpet, it would go worse.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to add that apparently in this situation, we are talking about a conflict between formal leader and informal leaders of these subgroups. And it is very important to confront this group or these people in a constructive way, explaining how their behavior impacted the whole team. And that's another very effective management tool that we learn and we discuss in Stratoplan, which is called constructive confrontation. Marina, thank you very much for this answer. I guess we're done for now. And again, feel free to share your feedback to us, and you can drop it in our chat. I hope to see you very soon, and stay tuned. Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.